ravishing. I think when Mr. Kosa hinted, we didn't understand how beautiful you look. So thank you so much for immersing us by taking off that jacket. And thank you so much, Minister, for those inspiring messages and statements that you shared, but also a call to action that you have shared, Minister. I was just listening to you also saying the significant role of our leaders cannot be overlooked. And I think it's why, one of our first panel discussions around aviation leaders in conversation is so important, Minister. Perhaps we can hear from them in terms of what policies have they implemented so far to ensure that gender equality is not just a summit topic or theme where we talk about it but don't do enough about it. We have Menti where we will be sharing our thoughts on company policies before that panel discussion commences. So our leaders will almost be put in the spot here because we'll almost get a sense with regards to our workplaces, where we are in terms of the type of leaders that we need and the leadership strategies that we need to move gender equality forward. So I absolutely agree with you there, Minister, and looking forward to my panelists joining me for our first discussion around aviation leaders in conversation. We'll be touching on, amongst others, as mentioned, policies in the workplace, targets that they have set for themselves, as well as for their teams to ensure that they do reach, the numbers that are desirable and targeted when it comes to gender equality, but also how do they ensure that gender considerations are integrated in all areas of organizations. It's not just, the chief DEI's responsibility or the Human Resource Department's responsibility, but each and every one of us in the workplace, particularly in the aviation industry and sector, how can we ensure that we promote gender equality with the blessing and encouragement from our leaders? So once again, thank you so much. Another round of applause to Minister of Transport, Sindisiwe Chikunga. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon to the stage to give brief remarks the Administrator of the Transport Security Administration from the United States of America. May you please help me welcome onto the stage Mr. David Pekoski. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. This has been an incredible morning, and first to the Minister of Transport, Minister Chikunga, thank you so much for your remarks, for your time this morning in our personal conversation. I'm greatly inspired by your leadership here and by the inspiration that you've provided to all of us in the audience today. I'd also like to thank the chairman, Ernest Koza, for his great remarks. And Ernest and I, we both know we need to step it up in terms of how we appear. I tried, and not even knowing it, to get a bright red tie and to be as close to Papi Koza's top as I possibly could. But thanks. And if I could, for a moment, just brag on my colleague, my international colleague, your Director of Civil Aviation, Papi Koza. Papi is an incredible leader on the international stage. As was mentioned in the video that we saw, she chaired, for the very first time, a woman chaired the General Assembly of ICAO. Yes. And that was an incredible event. Just before the pandemic, we got so much done, and I really appreciate Papi's leadership. Papi also chairs our AVSEC panel, and the Transportation Security Administration focuses on security, and she's been an incredible leader to make sure that all of us, as we use the global aviation system, are safe and secure, and that we can trust that our civil aviation authorities around the world are adhering to standards that make sure that we're well taken care of as we fly and as we connect with each other, which is so important for the improvements that we need to make, certainly with women's equality and many, many other issues on the global stage. I would just offer some reflections from listening to the speakers about our progress in the United States in the Transportation and Security Administration. And one of the things that I mentioned to the minister when we were talking this morning is that if you look at the Transportation and Security Administration, the top leadership of our organization, There are 7 top leaders. They are part of what we call our Leadership Council. Of the 7 top leaders, 5 are women. So we are doing well from a. But as Poppy said, one of the things that I think is important for all leaders in aviation and any industry is to lift as you rise. As you rise, and this applies to both men and women, to lift others, to achieve and to see opportunity and to see potential that you have demonstrated as an individual. The other thing with respect to TSA is half of our screening workforce are women. And that has been part of TSA's composition since founding in 2001. We also have a chief DEIA. In the United States, we have an A on that for accessibility, so diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility officer. Our chief DEIA officer is a woman, and she reports directly to me. What I've asked her to help us with is to develop a culture within the agency where we value, promote, reflect diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And she's been doing just a great job. But as all of you know, in attending these summits and events of a similar nature, this is a journey. And this is a journey that we need to continue to be on, that we need to continue to assess, as the minister mentioned, objectively our progress. I mean, when you listen to some of the numbers, 2%, 3%, a high of 4.9%, wow. There's a lot of progress we need to make, and we need to make it as quickly as we can. We can't wait 100 years. We really shouldn't even have to wait 10 years. We should be there as quickly as we possibly can. And so I would just close by saying, hey, thank you so much for the very warm hospitality that I've had in South Africa. I unfortunately will only be here for about 36 hours, but I will come back, and I've been greatly inspired. Thank you. I've been greatly inspired by the conversations that we've already had this morning. I wish you all the best as you continue through the day. And just one of the things that I always think about from a position of leadership in an organization, and it really doesn't matter where you are in an organization, what leadership position you have, and I would submit that everybody is a leader in an organization, and everybody should focus on knowing the people they work with and lending that helping hand, showing a way, observing potential and helping to develop that potential. And I know that you'll have great conversations about that over the course of today. And I wish you every success going forward. And Minister and Poppy, thanks so much for your great hospitality here today. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pakuski, for joining us and also sharing your remarks with us. Good to know that the partnership is quite strengthened. It's still strong when it comes to civil aviation. It's not just a South African problem, an African problem. It's a global issue, and we could see the commitment when it comes to all countries around the world trying to ensure that we do reach the numbers that we need to get to in our lifetime. Because when you hear about 100 years, I mean, I'm trying to see these numbers in my lifetime. I don't know about you. I'm trying to be here when I see those numbers. And that's why it's important to ensure that we accelerate the efforts and we, of course, lift women as we continue to progress in civil aviation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to break for about 15 minutes for our tea break. Important for me to emphasize, only for 15 minutes. Please make sure that you do enjoy your coffee and tea while you do so. Our social media is still active at official Sakar on Twitter and Instagram, of course, as you continue to share with the rest of the world how it's going here and how we're progressing when it comes to gender equality. But also remember, when we come back from our tea break, we'll be unpacking those gender numbers numbers. Statistics South Africa has made time to join us this morning to give us a presentation right before we delve into those important numbers and conversations with our leaders in aviation. So we're about to break for a tea break, but before we do, if I may just request a few moments so that we may request Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga to rise and allow her to perhaps be the first to make her way out of the room, and then we can of course follow through with our tea break. So I'm looking at the time right now as we're giving Minister time to rise 10:36. So we'll be back, I suppose, around 10:50 if we may, so that we may continue on with our next session. Just a quick reminder, Statistics South Africa will be making a quick presentation regarding numbers in gender, unpacking those numbers for us and how vast and wide they are and the amount of work that needs to be done just in terms of those numbers. So we'll be joined, of course, by Stasise, and thereafter a panel discussion with our leaders in aviation when we come back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your break.